Is NVIDIA better than AMD, or is it actually the other way around? Well, if you want to play at 1440p resolution, today I will be comparing every GPU that I consider is going to be amazing for 1440p resolution, and I will be comparing AMD against NVIDIA and tell you which graphics card you should get depending on the budget and also depending on many other things. Because trust me, the answer is not so straightforward. It depends on things like the budget, the level of performance, the power efficiency, and much more. I will try to explain everything as simply as possible, that way you are able to understand me. The links to the graphics cards that I will mention today will be down below in the video description in case you are interested in buying one of these. That being said, let's start. First, let's get this out of the way. What makes a GPU 1440p capable? Well, 1, the level of performance, and 2, the VRAM. You want at least 12 gigs of VRAM when it comes to 1440p resolution, especially if you want to play high demanding titles on high to ultra settings. Now, if you want to play easy to run titles such as Minecraft, Valorant, and these type of games, you are going to be just fine with 8 gigs of VRAM, but even then, if you have 12 gigs of VRAM, you have the ability to play more high demanding titles down the line, which is nice to have because you always want to have that option in the future, unless you want to upgrade very soon. Now let's start with the comparison. We are going from the lowest budget to the highest one. And first, we are going to start with GPUs for under $400. Here we have the RX 6750 XT or the RTX 4060 Ti for NVIDIA. Now, in terms of performance, both are going to perform basically the same, and I'm talking about rasterized performance with no upscaler or ray tracing, which at this price point, I would not recommend you buying a graphics card based on ray tracing performance because they are just not powerful enough. Anyway, the 4060 Ti is about $40 more expensive, and it comes with 8 gigs of VRAM, which is not great as I said before for 1440p, while the 6750 XT comes with 12 gigs of VRAM, which is a much better feature. For that reason, considering that ray tracing is not really a good feature here, and in terms of rasterized performance, both are the same, I would go with the 6750 XT. The only reason why you may pick the 4060 Ti over the 6750 XT is if your favorite games favor the NVIDIA GPU, for example, a game like Fortnite. Otherwise, I would always get the 6750 XT at this price point. It's going to age better, give you plenty of 1440p gaming performance, and it's cheaper. Now let's move on to GPUs that are under $500. And here we have the RX 6800 or 7700 XT, which I will be comparing in a second. And then for the NVIDIA GPU, we have the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB version instead of 8GB, which has to make it the better option, right? Because before we have the 4060 Ti, which had 8 gigs of VRAM, and now you have 16 gigs, which is going to be plenty for 1440p. So the 4060 Ti should be the better option. Well, no, actually, I would not recommend the 4060 Ti here either, and I will explain why. The RX 6800 or 7700 XT are going to give you about 15 to 20% faster rasterized performance for gaming than the 4060 Ti 16GB version, because the 16GB version is going to perform the same as the 8GB version. The only difference is that it comes with more VRAM, and in some games you do require more than 8 gigs of VRAM at 1440p high to ultra settings, and in that case the 4060 Ti 8GB version becomes not an option, and in that case the 16GB version is going to be a much better GPU. However, the cheapest RX 7700 XT is going for around $400. The cheapest RX 6800 is going for around $380, and then the 4060 Ti 16GB is going for $450, which I would never buy at that price point because you can buy a higher end GPU, which I will talk about in a second. So here AMD is the clear winner once again when it comes to gaming performance, and I would only get the 4060 Ti 16GB version once again if your favorite games are better optimized for NVIDIA, or if you want to do productivity work, content creation, and the softwares that you use are going to be once again more optimized for NVIDIA, or maybe they use a ton of VRAM. Now, between the RX 6800 and the 7700 XT, I think both are great options, and the pros for the 7700 XT is that it's slightly more power efficient. It has AV1 encoding, which if you are new to PCs, AV1 encoding basically is an encoder that's going to make your streaming quality look much better if you're going to stream on YouTube. As far as I know, the encoder is not available for Twitch, but they were working on it. However, I do not know if it's available when I'm recording this video or not. Then the pros for the RX 6800 is that it's slightly cheaper, it has more VRAM and might age a little better. Now this is not for certain, but anyway, both are great GPUs, and in my opinion, whether you go with the 7700 XT or RX 6800, you are going to be getting a 1440p high to ultra settings experience, 80 plus FPS on average. Then we have GPUs for under $550. And here we have three options: the RX 6800 XT, 7800 XT, and then the RTX 4070. In terms of price, the 6800 XT at the moment is the cheapest one, the 7800 XT is the second cheapest one, and the 4070 is the more expensive GPU. While the 7800 XT and 6800 XT perform basically the same when it comes to gaming performance, and both are going to be about 7% faster in terms, once again, of rasterized gaming performance compared to the RTX 4070. Now let me tell you the pros for each GPU. The 7800 XT has 16 gigs of VRAM compared to the 4070's 12 gigs of VRAM, even though for 1440p at this time I'm not really concerned about the difference between 12 and 16 gigs of VRAM, because most titles will require no more than 12 gigs, and in my opinion that's going to be the case for at least the next 2 years. Then the 7800 XT has a V1 encoding compared to the 6800 XT, which doesn't. It's from a newer architecture than the 6800 XT and will age better than both the 6800 XT and the RTX 4070 because of that VRAM. It's also the fastest when it comes to gaming performance. Then the pros for the 6800 XT is that you get basically the same performance as the 7800 XT, just slightly worse. It is quite cheaper at around $40 less depending on the deal that you get, and it's going for around $460. That's why I said that I do not recommend you getting the 4060 Ti at around $450, because for around the same price you're getting a much faster gaming performance with this GPU because it's one tier above the 4060 Ti. And also another pro from the 6800 XT is that it has 16 gigs of VRAM. Now the pros for the RTX 4070 is that it has a better level of ray tracing performance, which might be useful in some titles, even though at this performance level it's not going to be the strongest selling point. Then you get DLSS, which is the upscaler from NVIDIA and has better image quality than FSR, which is the upscaler from AMD. It's just going to look much better, and in my opinion this is a very strong selling point, because me personally, I use DLSS in some titles, especially the more high demanding ones, for example Hogwarts Legacy, and trust me, I couldn't notice the difference between DLSS and native with my human eye, which is an amazing thing because you are getting free FPS basically. And also the 4070 is better optimized for most photo and video editing softwares, as well with softwares for 3D rendering. So if you are into content creation and productivity work, the 4070 is probably the best option depending on the program that you use, and it's also the most power efficient graphics card between the three, so you will need a power supply with less wattage and you will be spending less money in your electricity bill. So the answer here, as you can see, is not so straightforward. It really comes down to your budget and your needs. Do you want to do content creation on the side? Do you want to use DLSS? Or do you want the best gaming performance for the price? That really comes down to your needs, and I will give you my personal recommendation at the end of this video, but I really believe that the reason is going to be different for each person. Then for under $600 we have the RTX 4070 Super and the RX 7900 GRE. Both basically will give you the same rasterized gaming performance, and the GRE has more VRAM in 16 gigs of VRAM compared to the 4070 Super's 12 gigs of VRAM. The pros for the RX 7900 GRE is that it's going to give you the same gaming performance and has more VRAM. It's also cheaper at around $50 to $40 less, making it the much better option in terms of price to performance for gaming. Now the pros for the 4070 Super are basically the same pros that I mentioned for the 4070. Better level of ray tracing, more power efficient, and you get the NVIDIA technologies that might be interesting to you if you are a creator or if you want to use the better upscaler technology. So the answer here is the same as before with the 4070 compared to the 7800 XT or 6800 XT. Now we have the best GPUs for 1440p resolution under $800, and it doesn't matter matter really which one you choose here, you are going to be getting amazing 1440p performance. But in some cases, NVIDIA is much better, and in others, AMD is going to be better. So even though you will be getting great performance, you really want to pick the best GPU for your budget and your needs. That being said, here we have the RX 7900 XT and the RTX 4070 Ti Super. Now, both are basically going to perform the same when it comes to rasterized gaming performance, but the 4070 Ti Super has more features. So in my opinion, in this case, the answer is more straightforward. I do recommend buying the 4070 Ti Super because it's more power efficient. It has all the NVIDIA technologies I mentioned. It has 16 gigs of VRAM, which is going to be plenty for 1440p and also 4K resolution. So if you want to play at 4K down the line, you can play with both the 4070 Ti Super or the 7900 XT, but at 4K resolution, DLSS is going to look much better, and that's another win for NVIDIA. Now, the 7900 XT is about $90 to $100 cheaper, but in my opinion, I would spend the extra $90 to $100 and get the better GPU overall. And yes, if you want the best graphics card in terms of price to performance, the 7900 XT is cheaper and faster when we are not talking about ray tracing performance. So if you want to go with the 7900 XT, that's a valid option, but as I said before, the 4070 Ti Super, in my opinion, is a more complete GPU that will give you not only great gaming performance for 1440p and 4K, but also has the stronger feature set. And why did I not mention the RTX 4070 Ti? Well, the 4070 Ti is about the same price as the 7900 XT, but it comes with 12 gigs of VRAM, and having the 4070 Ti Super on the market that has the same features but you get 16 gigs of VRAM, I think the 4070 Ti is just not worth it. And I have a 4070 Ti on my system. It works perfectly fine, but it's going to be slower than the Super version, slower than the 7900 XT as well, and it has 12 gigs of VRAM, which for around $700 I do not love it. On top of that, the 4070 Super is very similar in terms of performance and it's much cheaper. So if you are considering buying the 4070 Ti, I would preferably choose the 4070 Super. It's also much more power efficient. If you are enjoying this video, click the subscribe button, it's going to help the channel a lot. So for my final thoughts, it depends on your budget and your needs, as I said at the beginning of the video, but now I will give you some personal recommendations for each budget. For under $400, I would go with the 6750 XT as it offers more performance for a cheaper price. It has 12 gigs of VRAM, which is going to make a difference, and I would only get the 4060 if your favorite games are better optimized with Team Green, which by the way, that goes for NVIDIA or AMD. If your favorite titles work better with one of the two, then go with that one, especially if you're going to be spending 80% of the time in those games with your PC. Then for under $500, I would go with AMD as well, because once again, cheaper price, much better gaming performance in this case, and I would only go with NVIDIA if you're a content creator who actually needs the 4060 Ti 16GB version, or if your favorite titles once again work better with NVIDIA. For under $550, it gets a bit tricky and it really comes down to your needs and your budget. Same goes for under $600. The answer is not so straightforward and I do not know your personal life, so you are going to have to make the decision here. And then for under $800, I would go with the RTX 4070 Ti Super by far, because you get the better feature set, and even though it's more expensive, you are already spending $700 if you go with the 7900 XT, so you might as well spend $800 and get the better graphics card. And even though the graphics card is the most important component when it comes to gaming, if you have a CPU that's going to bottleneck your graphics card, you are not going to be getting the gaming performance that you want. And trust me, it is very easy to bottleneck your GPU, and I've seen many people send me a system with a really weak CPU and a high-end graphics card, or the other way around, a really weak graphics card with a high-end CPU. So for that reason, if you want the best price to performance PC build for your budget and your resolution, you will have my video talking about the best PC builds of the month in the top right of the screen. And if that doesn't fix the issue and you are still wondering which PC should you buy, you have my personal PC help in the top link in the description, where I will help you out by choosing the perfect PC from scratch, whether it's a PREBUILT PC or a PC build for your budget, your needs and resolution. It doesn't matter if you want to do just gaming or just content creation, or maybe both. I will help you out anyway. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.